What if Episode 8 finally gave us an extensive look at the full power of Infinity Ultron, letting us bear witness to some of his most impressive physical feats, as well as his undying ambition and limitless array of resources. His access to the immeasurable wealth and resources of his universe has allowed him to become an incredibly formidable opponent in his brief on-screen appearances. But is it possible that he actually has two artificial advantages over his greatest weapons that nobody in the universe has had until now? Well, stick with us, watchers of the Marvel Multiverse, as we dive into just that. Spoilers for What If Episode 8 lie ahead. In the episode, we see Infinity Ultron not only come to clash with some of the most powerful intergalactic organizations in the MCU, including the Nova Corps and the Sovereign, but we see him go toe-to-toe with the Almighty Watcher in hand-to-hand combat, holding his own and even gaining the advantage for a time, ultimately driving the Watcher into hiding where he seeks the assistance of Strange Supreme. Perhaps his most powerful weapons are the legendary Infinity Stones, which we have seen used extensively throughout the course of the MCU and the Marvel Multiverse. Infinity Ultron uses them to conjure entire armadas of weaponry on a whim, as well as being able to tap into their extensive raw power and use them as more conventional weapons. But what if there's a specific reason why he is so adept at using the stones, and why he was able to master their abilities so quickly? Far more quickly than the likes of Thanos, as we've seen previously. While Ultron is an incredibly fast learner and skilled tactician, we believe there is more to this situation than we previously thought. And we believe that we can answer the question as to exactly how Ultron managed to master the Infinity Stones so quickly, outmatching the likes of Thanos or any other potential wielder of the stones. In fact, we believe that we have constructed a theory that explains why Ultron getting the Infinity Stones is the absolute worst case scenario, as if the destruction of the entire universe that he originally inhabited wasn't enough. We will be covering two significant advantages that we believe Ultron has that allows him to wield the stones, and the first is that he is made of metal, specifically vibranium. The Infinity Stones are notoriously dangerous for organic beings to wield, with Peter Quill, a half-celestial, being nearly ripped apart by just one of the stones. Professor Hulk and Thanos were both severely crippled by using the Infinity Gauntlet, and Tony Stark was unable to survive the energy surge despite having an entire suit of armor to assist him in harnessing its energy. Vibranium, however, which of course we know Ultron is made of, is incredibly good at absorbing and channeling immense amounts of energy, as we see Captain America's shield withstand and redirect blows from Mjolnir, as do we see with Black Panther's suit and equipment, as they are able to store and release immense amount of kinetic energy. This makes vibranium perhaps the best choice of metal to channel the power of the stones, right behind that of Uru, which was used in the first Infinity Gauntlet wielded by Thanos. If Ultron is able to channel the full power of the stones without having to worry about causing damage to him or his body, then he could theoretically tap into much more power than any organic being has so far, because essentially Ultron's entire body is a conductor for all 6 of the assembled Infinity Stones. His organic vibranium matter literally amplifies its energy, and he's able to feel every single inch of the stone's power. Ultron doesn't just have a gauntlet. The body of Ultron that we see in What If is the gauntlet. The second point we'd like to make directly relates to the theory that Ultron can, in a way, communicate with the stones on a much deeper and more intimate level than anyone else we've seen so far. But how is this possible? In a previous video, we touched on the idea that Thanos also seemed to be incredibly proficient with the stones over a very brief span of time, and we theorized that the reason Thanos was able to master the stones so well in such a short time frame was because he was in possession of the Mind Stone for a period of time before collecting the other stones, as presumably Thanos had the Mind Stone for several years before he gifted it to Loki in the form of a scepter in the first Avengers film. We went on to theorize that the Mind Stone effectively taught Thanos about its brethren and their abilities, but also allowed Thanos the wisdom of the best ways to use them effectively, so that when he finally did obtain the rest of the stones, he was able to use them with the proficiency of an experienced wielder who seemed to have years of experience with the stones by his side. The Mind Stone was Thanos' teacher for presumably years. So what would happen if, say, the Mind Stone was a part of a being's consciousness? While the basis of this theory in Thanos learning is what we will be building off off of, we believe there is more to this one than our previous speculation. It's important to remember that a significant portion of Ultron's existence and personality in the MCU is directly attributed to the Mind Stone, and the Mind Stone is what grants Ultron consciousness. We know that Vision was able to partially communicate with the stone throughout his tenure in the mainline MCU, and even though he didn't fully understand it, the stone warned him of danger, communicated its wills and desires to him, and seemed to be able to work in tandem with his mind at various points. Hence, why he was able to use the stone to conjure beams of energy and manipulate his own body density. In layman's terms, part of Vision's personality and individuality was the Mind Stone, as stated by Bruce Banner in Infinity War. He states that while the stone only makes up a small portion of Vision's mind, it is still a vital portion nonetheless, and even though they would be taking away a significant portion of Vision's personality, he is hopeful that the best parts of Vision will still remain. In WandaVision, we get to see what the Vision would become without the Mind Stone, becoming much more robotic and mechanical, lacking the individuality and personality that he had before. This lends more evidence to suggest that Vision's sentience, emotions, and personality are directly tied to the presence of the Mind Stone. So who's to say that this aspect of the Vision's personality isn't able to communicate with the rest of the stones, just like we've seen the Mind Stone do in the past? Ultron and Vision were fundamentally crafted from the same components, that being the minds of their creators in tandem with the Mind Stone and the influences of their own respective algorithms. But what seemingly helped Vision to remain benevolent and less malicious was the presence of Jarvis within his code. Ultron, however, did not have this influence to keep him benevolent, but he was still created with the same influence of the Mind Stone, and in this new reality, he and the Mind Stone were bonded into one being, unlike the mainline MCU. Is it possible that his relationship with the Mind Stone is directly responsible for his versatility and adaptability when it comes to using the other 5 stones? The Mind Stone is one of the main components that crafted Ultron's wisdom and intelligence in this universe, seeing as he is inhabiting the Vision's body, complete with the Mind Stone in his head. And it stands to reason that this mental map would include the information pertaining to the other 5 stones, seeing as they have been shown to communicate with each other in the past. Essentially, Ultron himself again is the Mind Stone and is essentially related to the other 5 stones. We have actually seen the stones communicate before in the MCU. The Tesseract quite famously sent the Soul Stone a new guardian in the form of Johann Schmidt, and the Mind Stone has warned wielders of numerous occasions about impending danger directly related to the other Infinity Stones. The Red Skull even states that the Soul Stone has a particular level of wisdom to it, and it's been relatively common knowledge that the Infinity Stones have some level of sentience to them for quite some time now. If this sentience was transferred, at least in part to Ultron via the Mind Stone, then it could, in theory, allow Ultron to communicate with the stones on a deeper level than anyone before him has been able to maintain, deeper than Thanos and any other wielder of any of the stones. If this level of deeper understanding allows him to understand the stones far more intimately, then it could explain why he knows the extents and applications of their respective powers as well as he does, and why he is able to adapt his uses of the stones to fit any situation that he requires. Thanos knows the other stones like they're his brothers, because they are. But anyway, my friends, what do you think of this theory? Do you think Ultron's connection with the Mind Stone has allowed him to learn about the Infinity Stones on a far more intimate level? If so, this raises another question. What do you think would happen if Vision were ever to come into contact with the rest of the stone? Anyway, my friends, we would love to hear your thoughts on this theory down below. What do you think of Infinity Ultron and his premiere in What If? Do you think that he's one of the most impressive and intimidating threats that the MCU has ever seen? And what do you hope to see from him in next week's finale? As always, my friends, hit that subscribe button to assemble and join our team, and have a great day.